Do you know this person? They like driving, but they're feeling the pressure to get an SUV type vehicle. What sort of car should they buy? Do you know this person? Could this person be you? Well, if it is, maybe this car might be something to look at. It's the Jaguar F-Pace. The engine in this car is the same 3-litre V6 supercharged that's in the F-Type 3-litre V6 supercharged. So it's putting out figures of 280 kilowatts and 450 newton meters. In the F-Pace, this 3-litre engine can throw it down the road 0 to 100 5.5 seconds. Partly that's due to this car, for its size, is not that heavy, 1,861 kgs. And the reason it's kind of lightish for this size of vehicle is that Jaguar have used a lot of aluminium in its construction, like they do in their XE and XF and F-Type road cars. And they actually also use magnesium in the construction of this car. And they've done it cleverly in that they've tried to take the weight out of the higher bits of the car. For instance, the tailgate is plastic. But the floor of the boot, where the spare wheel well is steel. So that's heavy, of course, and that keeps what weight there is down low and also out the back, because this car's got an almost 50-50 perfect front-rear weight distribution too. All F-Paces have an all-wheel drive technology, but that's largely rear biased. So essentially, it's a rear-wheel drive car with up to 50% of the torque going to the front wheels on demand. Transmission in the F-Pace is an 8-speed ZF automatic. It comes with this lovely rotary dial that arises up out of the center console when you switch the car on and descends out of sight again once the car is switched off. It's an intriguing piece of design, and in practice I found it quite easy to live with. One thing I found kind of weird on the options list is adaptive cruise control. $2,350 for adaptive cruise. Now the car does have autonomous emergency braking, but it does not have adaptive cruise control unless you specify it and pay your extra $2,350. Part of that goes towards changing out the entire surround around the grille, because that's obviously where the radar lives. But it does seem like a hell of a lot of money to pay for what's really a fairly basic and standardized piece of kit on cars that cost like 30 grand now. It's a pretty practical vehicle. You got certainly beautiful seating for 5 people. It's not particularly airy feeling. It is quite kind of tight and cosseting in here, but that's not a bad thing. I think it gives the car a bit more of a sporty and kind of enveloping feel, which I find feels really quite elegant, restrained, and exciting. I've got to say, it's very, very quiet in here. Like, we're doing a little bit over 100 kilometers an hour now, just flying with the traffic opposite, and still there's nothing in the way of wind noises. Maybe a little bit from around where this glass panel is set into the steel work of the roof, but man, it's very, very quiet. I'm really enjoying driving the F-Pace out in the country. You can definitely feel that rearward bias to the drivetrain. Generally, 100% of the drive is going to the back wheels, nothing to the front. On occasion, it might go to 20% at the front, 80% at the back, and in extreme conditions where traction is really heavily compromised, up to 50% front, 50% rear. But usually, it's rear-wheel drive, and you can certainly appreciate that in corners. You come into a corner, you give it a bit of accelerator, and the back starts to just push the front round and tighten that line for you. It's very familiar to anybody who's experienced a rear-wheel drive car, because that's essentially what this is. It's a rear-wheel drive car. It just happens to sit 1.7 meters high off the ground at its tallest point. So it is a great revelation, I guess, to find that a car that's this high and this big actually feels so nimble and so controllable and tunable in corners the way that we'd all like our cars to be. look, at 1,861 kilograms, she's no lightweight, but it belies its overall size and weight by just superb chassis dynamics. Even in the harder settings of dynamic, it's an easy car to live with. The suspension is still quite compliant. It never delivers a jiggly or harsh ride, and you certainly know you're driving a Jaguar because it's just got that lovely feeling of control and serenity. And yeah, you are traveling at pace. The car's not slow by any means. Another thing that's really impressed me with this F-Pace is this 8-speed transmission. In the Supercharged XE that I drove, I commented that the transmission felt a little bit harsh and a bit dopey sometimes in its downshifts and upshifts, and it wasn't particularly unobtrusive. But in the F-Pace here, it's a delight. It really seems to have come some way in terms of its calibration or how it's been fettled to sit with this body and this weight, because regardless of which drive mode I'm in, the transmission's delivering really silky smooth shifts, and it's intelligent selection of gears. I'm finding it's not ever being caught out and being in the wrong gear, either too high or too low for the terrain and the throttle response that I'm asking for. So yeah, the transmission is really very good indeed. Now, as a new player in the SUV or luxury SUV market, Jaguar needs to convert people who've previously bought Beamers and Audis and Mercs and Porsches to try a Jaguar. So I thought we'd have a listen to a bloke who's at the sharp end of that process, Jeff Chung, who is the brand manager of Jaguar at Archibald and Shorter, and see what he can tell us about the sort of people that are buying these cars and why they're buying them.
The one thing that's really getting them in is the looks of the car. The F-Pace is different. And again, a lot of those German buyers are very loyal to their brands and are on their second, third, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, what have you. But a lot are just looking for something different and what's exciting and what's new. And the feedback that we're getting from those clients is, you don't see a lot of F-Paces in car parks and so on. It still has that, not uniqueness, but that's just that point of difference.
Still a little bit of a novelty,
Very much. And it is the looks.
And people don't expect to see a Jaguar this far up off the ground, do they? I mean, really.
Exactly not. And which is why it's such an important car for us. We just go back to basics. Go for a drive. It really is that easy. Someone comes in, I'm looking at a GLC, for example, or an X5. Great, fantastic. They're all good cars, but you have to drive the F-Pace. If you want to get behind the wheel, have fun, enjoy the drive, it's a Jaguar. It's as easy as that.
So, do you quite like Jaguar? If you're the sort of driver that really doesn't want to surrender the dynamics of a fine driver's car, but you need an SUV because you want to see over the SUV next to you at the side road, then the F-Pace is a really good option to explore because it's a car. It really is a car. It's not a truck. It's not even really an SUV. It really is, I don't know, think of it as a 4-door F-Type on stilts, because that's how it drives. It drives beautifully. So if you want a car, but you need an SUV, get an F-Pace.